Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Thursday. We are 2 days away from Arsenal returning to Premier League action with that trip to Burnley on Saturday. Looking forward to that. What a nice 4-hour drive up to Turf Moor on a Saturday morning. But given the way Arsenal played last weekend at Leicester, then hopefully we should be in for an exciting afternoon if they can replicate that sort of performance. Not really going to talk about that game today. I will try and do a video tomorrow looking at that one, predicted 11, the big sort of team selection issues that Mikel Arteta is facing ahead of that one. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that was discussed at yesterday's press conference. Some reaction from Mikel Arteta to the upcoming North London derby and the Europa League switch of dates, switch of fixtures that has worked out pretty well for Tottenham. Also sort of round up a little bit of the transfer rumours doing around and give my opinion on some of them. But I wanted to start today on sort of picking up on some comments that Mikel made yesterday about how the transfer plans are already in place for the summer and Arsenal already working towards that. Obviously, they're going to have to wait and see where they finish and that sort of thing before deciding exactly what they can do, but there are plans in place and they're probably, just like they were last season, looking at different scenarios already in terms of where they might finish, what sort of money will be available, that sort of thing. But I just wanted to talk about the job that Edu's got on this summer. Now, Edu had a really, really busy January. We all know that. Fair play to him. I gave him credit for that January window. I think he did very well in terms of, not really in terms of incomings, because there was only a couple, but he still got the job done with those two incomings, and they've proved to be decent additions to the squad. But in terms of getting players out, he had a really busy job on his hands and really difficult things to try and handle, and he handled it pretty well. Obviously, it still cost Arsenal money. They've had to pay a lot of players to go out, which is not ideal. But that was the situation they're in, and I thought Edu took pretty decisive action to make sure the squad looked a hell of a lot better in January than it did at the start of the month. But he's got another really busy summer coming up this summer. Loads and loads to do for Edu. I just wanted to sort of talk about that for a little bit, because I was thinking about it after those comments from Mikel last night, and we know Richard Garlett's coming in soon. He's coming in from the FA. He's going to be basically replacing Husfami, so dealing with all the contracts, that sort of thing. And that'll be a big help to Edu, because at the moment, you think, certainly in January, he had to do pretty much everything. He was juggling plates left, right and centre. And so we're not sure yet on the exact start date for Richard Garlett, but he should be in place by the summer, which will be a big help. He's obviously a very experienced guy. He's very well versed in those sort of things, so he will come in and help with that sort of football operations side that Arsenal desperately need. But in terms of, you look at new signings, how many there could be, or what Arsenal are looking to do with the squad this summer in terms of outgoings again, and what Arsenal are looking to do to move players on in terms of new contracts that need to be sorted out, Edu has got a really, really busy summer. There's going to be a big overhaul again at Arsenal this summer, as the sort of, I don't want to call it, well, we will call it the revolution, the Arteta rebuild, the Arteta and Edu rebuild begins to take shape even more than it has done already. We saw the dramatic overhaul that we saw in January, and I think it's going to be fairly similar this summer, because, I mean, you look at incomings, possible incomings, you've got a new striker you'd think is definitely going to be on the agenda, attacking midfielder, possibly a centre-back, depending on what's going to happen with William Saliba, a new goalkeeper. There's lots and lots, even a new central midfielder as well, potentially. And this is all going to be done on a very, very tight budget, and it's going to be a really, really difficult transfer window to go through. And I'm just thinking it's going to be a really difficult one for Edu. And then you got players out, potentially Bellerin. Is that going to happen? Can Arsenal find a club? If Bellerin and Arsenal believe the time is right for him to move on this summer, can Arsenal find a decent buying club that's going to match their sort of valuation for Bellerin? Lacazette, what happens with him? Do you sign a new contract or do you sell? Can you find a buyer for Lacazette with 1 year left on his contract that again suits Arsenal's needs? Eddie Nketiah, what do you do there? Again, 1 year left on his contract. Do you try and protect your investment in terms of how much you paid for him to progress and develop through Hale End and give him a new contract, or try and get him to sign a new contract? Whether he will is another thing. And then potentially sell him or send him out on loan for a season and then sell him when his value's far higher than it will be at the end of this season, when he's just got 1 year left on his current deal. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Reece Nelson, Joe Willock. There's so many things that need to be sorted this summer that Edu's going to have to try and balance. It's going to be a really, really busy summer. And for someone who's, let's face it, still fairly inexperienced, and I would say the jury is still out on, certainly. I'm still not overly sure, overly convinced by Edu yet. I think, like I said, January, I thought he did very, very well, but I can't agree with what he did with the scouting department. I just feel like that's a big, big error to get rid of so many experienced scouts that know the game, that know Arsenal inside out, that are really, really respected. We're not just talking about any old scout here. We're talking about some of the most respected scouts in European and world football that have just been let go. And how anyone at a club of Arsenal stature can basically disband their entire scouting network and rely on almost hearsay and just data doesn't sit well with me. So for me, the jury is still very much out on Edu, but he did do pretty well in January. And he's still pretty experienced. And you've also got the issue of new contract. I mean, Mikel Arteta, we've seen now Barcelona linked. Obviously, that's been shot down both by Barcelona and Mikel Arteta yesterday, saying that he's privileged to be at Arsenal and happy to be there. But still, another thing to be dealt with. So there's lots and lots of stuff that Edu has got to sort out. And it's not just Mikel Arteta when you look at new contracts. Bernd Leno is going to be 2 years left in the summer. Emil Smith-Rowe surely needs to get a new contract sorted very, very quickly. Eddie Nketiah, if he's going to stay, like I said, you've got to try and sort out a new deal. Balogun, we know, is ongoing at the moment. There's an awful lot of things. The William Saliba situation needs to be sorted. I don't envy Edu. Obviously, he's very, very handsomely paid. And that's what he's been brought in to try and do. But it's a big, big job for the Brazilian, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does, because if he needs to do it well, if Arsenal are going to be successful next season, he needs to have a very good summer. Him and Mikel Arteta obviously will play a part, and Richard Garlick, when he comes in, will also play a part, certainly in negotiations when it comes to potential signings and contracts and contract renewals and things like that. And hopefully he will make a difference. But yeah, interesting one. Let me know what you think. Are you convinced that Edu can have a good summer? Are you convinced Edu's the right man to be the technical director and to push through the big changes that needs to be done this summer? Have you been confident, impressed with what he's done so far, or do you, like me, still have a few reservations about the work he has been doing at Arsenal? Let me know in the comments below. One of those things that we talked about just then was Alexander Lacazette, and obviously what's Edu going to do with him in the summer? Do you find a buyer? Do you give him a new contract? Well, Mikel Arteta was asked about Laka yesterday and his future, and was said it looks like Laka's going to go in the summer. And Mikel said he's got a contract with us. He played really well the other week. It's exactly what we demand him to do. I'm really happy with him, and the discussions about his contract will happen soon, and we will see what happens. I'm hoping that any player under contract will continue with us. Every case is different, and we're going to assess that, and we'll make a decision in relation to that. So, sitting on the fence a little bit there. Mikel's certainly saying he wants him to stay with us while he's under contract, but he doesn't talk about a new contract there. And I don't think Arsenal would really want to let Lacazette just run down his deal and become the latest player to leave on a free transfer the following summer. So I think if that's why I've said it before. I think if Arsenal can find a buyer for Laka, that will probably be one of the things that's top of their agenda this summer, and that will allow them to bring in a new striker that they want to potentially shake up that striker department and sort of move it into the new period at Arsenal. Orba's still going to be there, we know that. I think a new striker arrives, then it kind of depends on what happens with Balogun. Can you convince him to stay? Will Nketiah's future play a part in what Balogun does? You've got Martinelli as well, but I think the key to it all, in terms of the bit of a rejig in the striker department next season, is what exactly happens with Alexander Lacazette. And Mikel certainly not absolutely saying there that he's going to be staying and signing a new contract, and I'm not surprised, because I just feel the time is right in terms of Laka potentially this summer to move on. Another striker, like I've already mentioned, Eddie Nketiah. Now, Eddie has barely featured at all. He's not even making squads at the moment. When you think he was ahead of Lacazette at some point in the pecking order this season and was starting the Premier League games, it's been a pretty dramatic fall from grace from Eddie. For Eddie, to be honest, I'm not overly surprised. He had plenty of opportunities. It's not like, I know, like people do complain that Gabriel Martinelli's not had many opportunities recently, and fair enough, he probably hasn't. But Eddie had opportunities, he didn't really take them, and at no point did you think, he's absolutely good enough to lead the line in a Premier League team. Given granted he's still young, but still he had plenty of opportunities and he never really took them. Very much a box a penalty box striker. You just see the distances where he scores his goals, where he's the most ruthless inside the penalty area. He knows where the ball's going to land. His goal record at youth level and at international level for under-21s is phenomenal. But it just looks like the step up to the Premier League for now is a little bit too big for him. And given he's only got a year left in his contract, there's a lot of talk about Eddie now and what happens next. And Mikel was asked about Eddie and his lack of minutes, and he says, when we're talking about management, this is one of the hazards to lead someone like Eddie out of the squad. But at the moment, everybody is fit and we have so many options up front. It hurts as well because of how Eddie behaves and trains every day and because he's a player from our academy. But he will have his chance. He needs to be patient, and he's showing no signs of lacking attitude or anything like that. It's the complete opposite. He's a joy to work with, and he deserves minutes. If he doesn't get them, it's just my fault. So, Mikel, nice words for Eddie there. I'm sure Eddie reading them will appreciate those sort of words. He'd appreciate getting an opportunity in the first team squad a lot more. That has to be said. Mikel was then asked, on whether there was a risk to Eddie's development because of these lack of minutes. And he said, yes, there is, because he needs to play, and we've been wanting to use him a little bit more on some occasions, and we didn't. To be fair, when he has played, he's played well. But at his age and for what he's done for the last 2 or 3 seasons, he needs more minutes. It's something we have to talk about openly and make the right decision. Interesting sort of last little bit there from Mikel, basically saying, look, I know that Eddie needs to play. We'll have to make a decision on it. And that's why this summer, only got a year left in his contract. It's going to be a big, big summer for Eddie Nketiah in terms of his future. Is it going to be at Arsenal for the long term? Don't know. Not entirely sure at this point. I think you give him a new contract, but that is only really to protect your investment, and then you can sell him for more money. I think for Arsenal, if they're going to get the most money for Eddie, it's not going to be now. He's not playing. He's only got a year left in his contract. His value is dropping all the time. If he signs a new deal now, you send him out on loan next season, and he has a very good loan spell somewhere, which he could easily do, even if it's in the Championship. You've seen how much if you have a good season in the Championship, how much strikers can be worth, and then you sell him the following year. From what I've seen, I don't think Eddie's going to be Arsenal's number 9. Let's put it that way. But I think if you've give him a new contract, if you can convince him to sign a new contract now and say, look, we'll send you out on loan next season so you can play as many minutes as possible, and he has a very good season, then suddenly you're looking at a £30 million player the following year that you can sell, and you'd have a lot of clubs knocking on your door for. Right now, I think you're looking at about £10 million and not many clubs knocking on your door. So personally, for me, I would give him a new contract, but only basically give him a new contract so you can sell him for more money down the line. That would be my personal opinion, but convincing Eddie to do that might not be easy. So I think that's another one of the big things facing Arteta and Edu this summer. And it's similar. You look at the similar positions at the moment for Gabriel Martinelli, Reece Nelson, people like that, just not getting many minutes. I think Gabby's slightly different. He signed a new long-term contract. He's very much part of Arsenal's plans. But when you look at Nelson, especially, I think Nelson and Nketiah are pretty much in the same boat. Before we go, let's quickly talk about these comments from Mikel Arteta. Understandably a bit frustrated at what's gone on with the Europa League ties, because Arsenal and Tottenham are both drawn to be playing at home in the second leg of their upcoming last 16 games, and UEFA rules forbid teams in the same area playing on the same night. One of them had to be moved, and it's Tottenham, because Arsenal are the FA Cup holders. They take priority, and given the away leg, if you have the away leg second, it's supposed to be the advantage. Then Arsenal take preference. So UEFA stuck with Arsenal and have said to Tottenham, you have to move yours. But because of the fixture list in the Premier League, it's actually worked out as pretty much a good advantage for Tottenham rather than Arsenal, because it comes just before the North London derby, and it means that Tottenham will be playing at home on the Thursday night, and Arsenal have to travel to Greece on the Thursday night. So they've got a long journey back from Athens, while Tottenham can just put their feet up in North London and rest ahead of the North London derby. So not ideal for Arsenal. Mikel was asked about it. He said, look, we want to have 2 teams playing in equal conditions. We can raise our voices, and we should, but the decision has been made, and that's it. I don't want to use it as an excuse going forwards, that game saying, oh, they have an advantage. It's not going to change. So you can tell he's frustrated there, Mikel Arteta, but he understands that there's nothing he or anyone can do about it at the moment. And yes, I think, although he's trying to play it down a little bit, I think he knows full well that Tottenham do have an advantage in that one, and he would have loved to have been at home before that big North London derby. And he's lost both his derbies against Spurs so far, Mikel Arteta. He won't like that one little bit this is the first home game we'll play against them, and he'd love to get a win on the board against Arsenal's near neighbours rather than just two defeats. But I think Spurs certainly going to have the advantage team news-wise and fitness-wise ahead of that game. It'll be interesting to see what starting 11 Mikel goes with in the first leg. Before we go, quick little roundup on the transfer rumours, doing around a few of them at the moment. Andre Silva, the Frankfurt striker, said Ederson Edouard at Celtic has been linked again. Lamptey, obviously linked again. In terms of Edouard, I've said before that he's very much a player that Arsenal like and have been watching it for some time now. Leicester also believed to be interested in him. I think this summer is probably the summer that we're going to see Edouard leave Celtic. I think they're going to probably need a little bit of cash given the season, the way that it's gone down for them, and if not being in the Champions League, that sort of thing, they might look to raise some money for Edouard, and he probably wants to move on as well. Definitely a player that Arsenal looked at and liked. I know that definitely for a fact. And yeah, so it'll be interesting. It just kind of depends, I think, what happens on Lacazette with Arsenal. They need to raise money. They need to get some players out to bring players in, just because they've got a lot of strikers as it is as well. I'm not just saying it has to be purely sell to buy. It's more for the strikers. They need to create space in the squad to bring another one in. I think Edouard will certainly be on the list. I'm not saying he'll be the priority striker, but he'll certainly be on the list. And he is someone that Arsenal have monitored for some time now. Andre Silva, I'm not sure about this rumour. Just because he's always been a player that seems to be linked for Arsenal with Arsenal, even in his AC Milan days. Obviously having a very good season for Frankfurt in Germany. I think it's 19 goals. He's got links coming out of Italy initially saying that Arsenal have him as number one priority. I'm sceptical about that, but we'll have to wait and see in the summer whether anything comes about with Andre Silva. It just feels to me like that is one that is a player who's just been linked time and time again over the years for Arsenal, and it's one of those kind of easy links to make, but who knows, we'll have to wait and see. And in terms of Lamptey, I mean, we all know that right backs Arsenal will be looking at in terms of possibly moving Hector on and bringing someone in. Lamptey will be right up there. John Cross at the Mirror reported this back in December that Arsenal are tracking Tariq Lamptey. The thing for me with him is I just think he's going to be more expensive than Bellerin. I think if you sell Bellerin, you're going to have to pay more money for Tariq Lamptey, and given the finances at Arsenal and everywhere at the moment, I'm not entirely convinced that they'll do that, but there certainly will be interest there in him. And Max Aarons at Norwich, another one that a lot of clubs are looking at, right back options. They sort of tick the boxes for Arsenal. And I would love Lamptey at Arsenal, I have to say. I think he's great. I think he would bring an awful lot of energy and drive to the team and quality. No doubt, he's very good on the ball. He's shown for Brighton this season how good he can be. Plenty still to prove and lots of room to develop, but I think they're the sort of players that Mikel Arteta really wants to bring in and work with. And it's going to be an interesting one. Let me know what you think. Would Lamptey be a good signing? Would Andre Silva be a good signing? Would Edouard be a good signing? Who do you want to see come in this summer? Let me know. Always interested to see your opinions in the comments below. Right, thanks for watching, everyone. Appreciate your time as always. I will try and do one of these tomorrow, focusing on the Burnley game, doing the old predicted 11 and looking at the team selection issues that Mikel Arteta is facing ahead of that one. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.